After 70, every single morning counts. Your body is sending you signals most people ignore until it's too late. Right now in Japan, doctors in their 80s and 90s are still seeing patients, still walking without canes, still thinking clearly enough to diagnose complex cases. Meanwhile, here in the West, we're told that decline after 60 is just natural, that you should expect the pills, the pain, the fog. But what if the difference isn't genetic? What if it's 5 simple movements these Japanese physicians do before breakfast? Movements so subtle you'd walk right past them in a park. Here's what they won't tell you in your annual checkup. The average American over 65 takes 4 prescription medications daily. In Okinawa, where these doctors live and work, that number drops to less than 2. The gap isn't better health care or lucky genes. It's daily movement patterns that keep joints fluid, balance sharp, and circulation strong without ever stepping into a gym. These aren't exercises. They're woven into the morning routine like brushing your teeth. And the science behind them is finally catching up to what Japanese elders have known for generations. Today, you're going to learn the 5 longevity moves that doctors in their 80s do every single day. Not the ones they recommend, the ones they actually practice. We're going to start with the simplest, the one that takes 30 seconds and resets your nervous system before your feet hit the floor. Then we'll build to the second move, a standing practice that prevents the #1 cause of hospital visits for people over 70. The third movement targets something your doctor probably never mentions but controls your energy and mood all day long. The fourth is so counterintuitive that Western physical therapists are just now starting to teach it, but it's been standard in Japan for decades. And the fifth, the one we'll finish with, is the move that surprised me most. It's the shortest, the easiest, and according to research from major medical centers, it might have the biggest impact on how long you live and how well you function in your final decades. Before we go further, do me a favor. Drop a comment right now with your age and where you're watching from. I want to know who's here and what part of the world you're tuning in from. Just your age and city or country. I read every single one. Let's start with the first move. It happens before you even stand up. Most mornings, what do you do the second you wake? You sit up fast, swing your legs out, maybe check your phone, then stand and shuffle to the bathroom. Your body goes from horizontal to vertical in under 10 seconds. And every single time you do that, you're putting stress on your cardiovascular system that it doesn't need. Japanese doctors in their 80s do something different. They wake and they pause. Eyes open, but they stay flat on their back for 20 to 30 seconds. During that pause, they do something called controlled morning breathing. It's 3 deep breaths, in through the nose for a count of 4, hold for 4, out through the mouth for 6. That's it. 3 cycles while lying flat. Why does this matter? When you sleep, your blood pressure drops. That's normal. But when you jolt upright, your pressure spikes fast to compensate. For people over 60, especially those with any cardiovascular history, that morning spike is linked to a higher risk of dizziness, falls, and even minor cardiac events. The controlled breathing while lying down gives your system a chance to wake gradually. It signals your autonomic nervous system to shift gears smoothly instead of slamming from sleep mode into standing mode. Research from centers studying longevity in older populations suggests that this kind of gradual morning transition can reduce morning blood pressure spikes by measurable amounts. Let me tell you about Robert. He's 73, a retired electrician from Ohio. Robert used to wake up, sit up fast, stand, and immediately feel lightheaded. He'd brace himself on the nightstand every morning. He thought it was just age. Then, during a visit, I suggested he try the Japanese morning pause. 3 deep breaths flat on his back before sitting up. He tried it the next day. Within a week, the dizziness was gone. Within 2 weeks, he told me he felt more alert in the first hour of his day than he had in years. He wasn't doing anything else differently. Just those 3 breaths lying flat before his feet touched the floor. Here's how you do it. Tonight, set your alarm 5 minutes earlier than usual. Tomorrow morning, when you wake, don't move. Stay on your back. Close your eyes again if you want. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. Feel your belly rise. Hold that breath for 4 seconds. Then Exhale through your mouth for 6 seconds, letting everything go. Do that 3 times. Then sit up slowly, pause on the edge of the bed for another 10 seconds, and stand. That's the protocol. No equipment, no flexibility required, no risk. If you have severe lung issues and deep breathing is uncomfortable, just do gentle breaths at your own pace. The key is the pause, not the breath count. This move sets the tone for your entire autonomic system for the day. It's the simplest one on the list, and it's the foundation. Because if your nervous system is calm and your blood pressure is stable when you start your day, every other movement we talk about becomes safer and more effective. Now let's move to the second practice, and this one happens right after you stand up. In Japan, it's called katashi baransu, which translates roughly to standing balance check. It's not a test. It's a daily recalibration. Here's the reality that nobody wants to say out loud. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death for people over 65 in the United States. Not car accidents. Not heart attacks during exercise. Falls. And the majority of those falls happen at home, during routine movements like walking to the bathroom or reaching for something on a shelf. The reason isn't weak muscles, though that plays a role. The main reason is degraded proprioception. That's your body's sense of where it is in space. After 60, if you don't actively practice balance, your proprioceptive system quietly fades. And once it's gone, it's hard to rebuild. Japanese doctors practice standing balance every single morning, and they do it in a specific way. After they stand from bed, before they walk anywhere, they stand next to something stable like a dresser or wall. They lift one foot off the ground, just an inch or two, and they hold it for 30 seconds. Then they switch feet. That's it. No wobbling challenge, no eyes closed, no advanced yoga pose. Just one foot up, steady, for 30 seconds per side. The key is doing it every day, in the same spot, so your body learns to stabilize automatically. Why does this work? When you lift one foot, your brain has to coordinate signals from your inner ear, your vision, and sensors in your standing foot and ankle. That coordination is proprioception. If you never practice it, those pathways weaken. But if you do it daily, even for just 1 minute total, you keep those pathways active. Research from rehabilitation and geriatric centers has shown that people who practice single leg standing for even short periods each day maintain better balance and have fewer falls compared to those who don't. The effect is measurable, and it's preventive. Let me tell you about Linda. She's 68, a former teacher from Florida. Linda had a fall in her kitchen about a year ago. She was reaching for a mug on a high shelf, shifted her weight, and her foot just didn't land where she thought it would. She caught herself on the counter, but it scared her. After that, she started moving more cautiously, which actually made her balance worse because she was using her muscles less. When we talked, I had her start doing the standing balance check every morning. 1 foot up, 30 seconds, right next to her bed with her hand hovering near the nightstand. She didn't need to hold on, but it was there. For the first week, she wobbled. By week 2, she was steady. After a month, she told me she felt more confident walking on uneven sidewalks and getting in and out of her car. She hasn't fallen since. Here's your protocol. Tomorrow morning, after you do your 3 lying breaths and sit up, stand next to your bed or a dresser. Place your hand lightly on the surface, but don't lean on it. Lift your right foot just an inch off the ground. Look straight ahead, not down. Hold for 30 seconds. Put it down, then lift your left foot and hold for 30 seconds. If 30 seconds feels too long at first, start with 15 and build up over a week. If you have a knee or hip issue that makes lifting one foot painful, just shift your weight onto one foot without lifting the other. The goal is to challenge your balance safely, not to injure yourself. Do this every single morning in the same spot. Your brain will start to map that movement as part of your routine, and your proprioception will improve without you even thinking about it. And here's the bonus. Better balance doesn't just prevent falls. It makes you more willing to move throughout the day. You'll take the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator. You'll walk on the grass instead of only on flat pavement. And all of that adds up to a body that stays functional longer. That's 2 moves. A 1-minute breathing pause when you wake and a 1-minute balance check when you stand. Both take zero equipment and can be done in your bedroom. Now let's go to the third movement, and this is where it gets interesting. Because this one targets something that most doctors never talk about but that controls your energy, your digestion, and even your mood for the entire day. It's your diaphragm. The third practice is called hara kokyu, which means belly breathing, but it's more specific than that. After the balance check, while you're still standing near your bed, you're going to do 60 seconds of diaphragmatic breathing with your hands on your abdomen. Here's why this matters. As we age, we shift from belly breathing to chest breathing without realizing it. Chest breathing is shallow. It uses the small muscles in your ribs and neck, and it keeps your nervous system in a low-grade stress state all day. Belly breathing, true diaphragmatic breathing, uses the big muscle under your lungs. It pulls more oxygen into the lower part of your lungs where gas exchange is most efficient, and it activates the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve that tells your body it's safe to rest, digest, and repair. Japanese doctors know this. So every morning, right after their balance check, they place both hands on their lower belly, just below the navel. They breathe in slowly through the nose, pushing the belly out against their hands. They feel the expansion. Then they breathe out slowly through the mouth, letting the belly fall. They do this for 10 breaths, which takes about 60 seconds. And the reason they put their hands there is simple. It gives them feedback. You can't fake belly breathing when your hands are checking. If your chest rises and your belly doesn't, you know you're doing it wrong. Why does this rewire your day? Because that 1 minute of belly breathing shifts your autonomic nervous system from sympathetic mode, which is fight or flight, to parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest. That shift affects everything. Your heart rate drops slightly. Your digestion wakes up. Your cortisol level, which spiked a little when you first woke, starts to come back down. And perhaps most importantly for people over 60, your gut motility improves. A lot of seniors struggle with constipation, bloating, and irregular digestion. One major factor is poor diaphragm movement. The diaphragm sits right on top of your intestines, and when it moves fully with each breath, it gently massages your gut. When it doesn't move, your gut doesn't get that stimulus. There's a broader body of evidence suggesting that diaphragmatic breathing can improve gut function, reduce stress markers, and even lower blood pressure slightly over time. It's not a drug. It's not a supplement. It's using the muscle you already have, the way it was designed to work. Let me tell you about George. He's 71, a retired postal worker from Michigan. George had been dealing with constipation for years. He tried fiber supplements, more water, prunes, everything. It helped a little, but not much. When we talked, I asked him how he breathed in the morning. He looked at me like I was crazy, but I had him try the belly breathing protocol. 60 seconds, hands on his lower belly, 10 deep breaths in and out. He did it every morning right after his balance check. Within 4 days, his digestion started moving on a regular schedule for the first time in months. He called me 2 weeks later and said he couldn't believe something so simple had made that big a difference. It wasn't magic. It was mechanics. His diaphragm was finally moving the way it should, and his gut responded. Here's how you do it. After your balance check, stay standing or sit on the edge of your bed if standing is uncomfortable. Place both hands flat on your lower belly, fingers pointing down toward your pelvis. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 seconds and push your belly out into your hands. Don't raise your chest. Push the belly out. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds and let your belly fall back in. Do that 10 times. Count them. It'll take about a minute. If you feel lightheaded, slow down. If you have lung issues and deep breaths are hard, do shorter, gentler breaths. The key is the belly expansion, not the breath hold. Do this every morning right after your balance check. You're building a sequence now. Wake, pause, breathe flat. Stand, balance check. Then belly breathing. 3 moves, 3 minutes total. And each one primes your body for the next. Now we're going to add the 4th movement. And this one is the most misunderstood in Western medicine. But in Japan, it's standard. It's called joint circling, and it's how you keep your shoulders, hips, and knees fluid without ever lifting a weight. The fourth practice is simple but precise. After your belly breathing, you're going to make slow circles with your major joints. Start with your shoulders. Stand with your arms hanging at your sides. Slowly roll your shoulders forward in big, smooth circles. 5 circles forward. Then reverse and do 5 circles backward. Keep the movement slow and controlled. Then move to your hips. Place your hands on your hips, feet shoulder width apart. Make slow circles with your hips, like you're stirring a big pot. 5 circles clockwise, then 5 counterclockwise. Then your knees. Stand next to something stable in case you need balance. Lift one foot slightly and make small circles with your knee, rotating your lower leg. 5 circles one direction, 5 the other, then switch legs. Why does this matter so much after 60? Because joint stiffness isn't just about cartilage wearing down. A huge part of stiffness is the synovial fluid inside your joints getting thick and sluggish. Synovial fluid is like oil in your car. It lubricates the joint surfaces so they glide smoothly. But unlike oil, synovial fluid only circulates when you move the joint through its full range. If you only move in straight lines, walking and sitting, your joints never get fully lubricated. The fluid stays pooled in one spot and the joint feels stiff. But if you circle the joint slowly, you push that fluid through the entire capsule. It's like wringing out a sponge. The joint wakes up. Japanese doctors do this every morning because they know that joint stiffness leads to compensations. If your shoulder is stiff, you twist your back more to reach something. If your hip is stiff, your knee takes extra load. Those compensations lead to pain and injury. But if you keep the joints fluid with 2 minutes of slow circles every morning, you prevent the stiffness before it starts. Research in rehabilitation and physical therapy has shown that active range of motion exercises, especially circular movements, can maintain joint health and reduce stiffness better than passive stretching alone. Let me tell you about Maria. She's 70, a former hairdresser from Arizona. Maria's shoulders hurt every morning. She blamed it on years of holding scissors and blow dryers. She was taking ibuprofen most mornings just to get dressed. When we talked, I suggested she try the joint circles before she did anything else in her routine. Shoulders, hips, knees. 2 minutes total. She was skeptical, but she tried it. After 3 days, she noticed the morning shoulder pain was less sharp. After 2 weeks, she stopped taking ibuprofen in the morning. She told me the circles felt strange at first, like she was doing something too simple to work. But the results spoke for themselves. Her shoulders weren't healed, but they were functional. And function is what matters when you're 70. Here's your protocol. After your belly breathing, stay standing. Start with your shoulders, arms at your sides, relaxed. Roll both shoulders forward in big, smooth circles, 5 times. Feel the movement in the whole shoulder joint. Then reverse, 5 circles backward. Next, hands on your hips, feet shoulder width apart. Move your hips in slow circles, 5 clockwise, 5 counterclockwise. Keep your knees soft, not locked. Finally, the knees. Hold on to something stable if you need to. Lift your right foot slightly and make small circles with your lower leg, rotating from the knee. 5 circles one way, 5 the other. Switch legs. If you have knee pain, make the circles smaller. If you have hip replacement or other joint hardware, check with your doctor first, but in most cases, slow circles are safe and helpful. Do this every morning after your belly breathing. The whole sequence now is about 5 minutes. Lying breath, standing balance, belly breathing, joint circles. You're not working out. You're waking up your body's systems in the right order. Nervous system first, then balance, then digestion, then joint lubrication. And every single one of these practices is something you can do in your bedroom, in your pajamas, without any equipment or risk. Now we come to the 5th and final movement. This is the one that surprised me most when I learned it. It's the shortest. It takes less than a minute, but the research behind it is stunning. And it's something almost no one in the West does anymore. It's called floor contact, and it's the single best predictor of longevity and independence in older adults that we have. Here's the reality. If you can get down on the floor and back up again without using your hands, you're in the top tier of functional fitness for your age. If you can't, your risk of mortality in the next 6 years is significantly higher. That's not scare tactics. That's data from large studies that tracked thousands of older adults over time. The ability to sit on the floor and stand back up without support is a proxy for strength, balance, flexibility, and coordination all at once. And in Japan, doctors in their 80s practice this every single day. Not because they're trying to prove anything, because they know that the day they can't get down and up is the day they've lost independence. The fifth movement is this. Once a day, preferably in the morning after your joint circles, you lower yourself to the floor and then stand back up. That's it. You're not sitting there for long. You're not stretching. You're just making contact with the ground and coming back up. The method matters. You don't drop down or crash. You control the descent. And you don't haul yourself up with furniture. You use your legs, your core, and if you need to, one hand on the ground for balance. But the goal is to minimize hand use over time. Why is this so powerful? Because it requires your entire body to work as a system. Your hips have to flex. Your knees have to bend. Your ankles have to dorsiflex. Your core has to stabilize. And your brain has to coordinate all of it in real time. When you do this every day, you're training the exact movement pattern that keeps you independent. You're teaching your body that getting down and up is normal, not an emergency. And you're maintaining the strength and mobility to do it when it actually matters. Like if you drop something, or if you want to play with a grandchild on the floor, or if you fall and need to get back up. The research here is striking. Studies from centers tracking aging and mobility have found that people who can perform a floor sit-to-stand test without assistance score significantly better on longevity and independence measures. It's one of the most predictive functional tests we have. And the great news is, even if you can't do it perfectly right now, practicing it every day will improve your score over time. Let me tell you about James. He's 74, a retired engineer from California. James hadn't been on the floor in probably 5 years. He just avoided it. If he dropped something, he used a grabber tool. If his grandkids wanted to play on the floor, he sat in a chair and watched. When we talked, I suggested he start practicing floor contact every morning. He was nervous. He thought he'd get stuck down there. So we started with a modified version. He got down on one knee next to his bed, then the other knee, then sat back on his heels. Then he used the bed to help him stand back up. That was day 1. Every morning he did it once. After a week, he needed less help from the bed. After 3 weeks, he could lower himself to a seated position and stand back up with just one hand on the floor. After 2 months, he did it with no hands. He called me and said he felt like he'd won a prize. He hadn't won anything except his own independence. But that's everything. Here's your protocol. Start with a modified version if you need to. After your joint circles, stand next to your bed or a sturdy chair. Lower yourself to one knee, then the other. Then sit back on your heels or all the way down to a seated position with legs crossed or out in front. Pause for 5 seconds. Then stand back up, using the bed or chair for support if needed. Do this once every morning. Your goal over the next month is to reduce how much support you need. Maybe you start with 2 hands on the bed, then 1 hand, then just fingertips, then no hands but you keep the bed nearby just in case. And eventually, you do it in the middle of the room with nothing around you. If you have knee replacements or severe arthritis, talk to your doctor first. Some people will need to modify this permanently. But for most people over 60, with practice, floor contact is achievable. And the act of practicing it, even if you never perfect it, keeps your body capable. The worst thing you can do is avoid the floor entirely because you're afraid. Avoidance guarantees you'll lose the ability. Practice guarantees you'll keep it as long as possible. Now, let's talk about how these 5 moves work together, because that's where the real power is. You're not doing 5 random exercises. You're doing a sequence that wakes up your body's systems in a specific order, and that order matters. First, you calm your nervous system and stabilize your blood pressure with the lying breath. That makes everything else safer. Second, you activate your proprioception with the balance check. That turns on the signals between your brain and your feet. Third, you wake up your diaphragm and gut with belly breathing. That shifts you into rest and digest mode and primes your digestion for the day. Fourth, you lubricate your joints with slow circles. That prevents stiffness and compensations later. And fifth, you prove to your body that you can still get down and up from the floor. That maintains full body function and independence. The whole sequence takes 5 to 6 minutes. You can do it in your bedroom, in your pajamas, before you even think about breakfast. There's no equipment to buy, no gym membership, no special flexibility, and the results compound. Every day you do this, you're investing in your nervous system, your balance, your digestion, your joints, and your functional strength. After a month, you'll notice you feel steadier on your feet. After 2 months, you'll notice less morning stiffness. After 3 months, you'll notice you have more energy in the first part of your day. And after 6 months, you'll notice that things you used to avoid, like stairs or uneven ground, don't bother you as much. But here's the thing. These moves only work if you do them every day. Not 3 times a week, not when you remember, every single morning. Because the benefits are cumulative, and the systems you're training, your nervous system, your proprioception, your gut, your joints, they all respond to consistency, not intensity. You don't need to do more. You need to do it daily. Now, let's talk about what happens if you don't do this. Because the alternative path is what most people in the West are on, and it's not pretty. If you don't actively practice balance, your proprioception fades. You start shuffling instead of stepping. You avoid stairs, and eventually you fall. If you don't practice belly breathing, your diaphragm weakens. You shift to chest breathing. Your gut slows down. You feel bloated, tired, stressed. If you don't circle your joints, they stiffen. You start moving in smaller and smaller ranges. Your back compensates. Your knees take extra load. Pain shows up. If you don't practice floor contact, you lose the ability. And the day you can't get down and up is the day you've lost a big piece of your independence. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say. Most age-related decline isn't because your body is broken. It's because you stopped asking your body to do things. You stopped getting on the floor, so your body forgot how. You stopped balancing on one foot, so your proprioception faded. You stopped moving your joints fully, so they stiffened. Your body adapts to what you ask of it. If you ask for less, it gives you less. If you ask for more, it gives you more. And these 5 moves are a daily request. You're asking your body to stay functional. And when you ask every day, your body listens. Let me tell you about Helen. She's 76, a retired nurse from Texas. Helen came to me a year ago because she was frustrated. She said she felt like she was getting old too fast. She was stiff in the mornings, unsteady on her feet, tired by noon. She thought it was just what happened at 76. I asked her to try these 5 moves every morning for 1 month. Just 1 month. She agreed. The first week was hard. She wobbled during the balance check. Her belly breathing felt weird. The joint circles made her feel silly, and she could barely get down to the floor at all. But she kept going. By week 2, it felt less awkward. By week 3, she noticed she wasn't stiff when she got out of bed. By the end of the month, she told me she felt 10 years younger. Not in some vague way. She could bend over to tie her shoes without bracing herself. She could walk her dog without worrying about uneven pavement. She could get down on the floor to sort through a box in her closet and stand back up without help. She didn't change her diet. She didn't start a new medication. She just did 5 minutes of movement every morning, and her body responded. That's the power of these practices. They're small, they're simple, and they're cumulative. And the reason Japanese doctors in their 80s are still working, still moving, still independent, is because they've been doing these moves every single day for decades. They didn't wait until they had a problem. They built the practice into their routine when they were younger, and they never stopped. But here's the good news. It's not too late for you. Even if you're 70, 75, 80, even if you haven't done any of this before, starting today will make a difference. Your body still adapts. Your nervous system still responds to training. Your joints still produce synovial fluid. You haven't missed the window. You're just opening it now. So let's talk about how to actually start. Don't try to do all 5 moves perfectly on day 1. That's a recipe for frustration. Start with the first 2. Tomorrow morning, do the lying breath and the balance check. Just those 2. Get comfortable with them for 3 days. Then add the belly breathing. Do those 3 for another 3 days. Then add the joint circles. And finally, after a week or so, add the floor contact in whatever modified form you can manage. Build the sequence gradually, and let each piece become a habit before you add the next one. And here's a tip that makes a huge difference. Do these moves in the same spot every morning. Same side of the bed for the lying breath. Same corner of the room for the balance check. Same spot for the floor contact. Your brain loves spatial consistency. When you do something in the same place every day, it becomes automatic faster. You won't have to think about it. You'll just do it. And that's when it becomes a true habit. Now, let's address the obstacles, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you don't have time, or you're not flexible enough, or you're worried you'll hurt yourself. Let's take those one by one. Time. These moves take 5 minutes total. You spend more time looking for your glasses in the morning. If you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a morning routine, you have chaos. And this practice will actually give you more time back because you'll move better and feel better throughout the day. Flexibility. None of these moves require flexibility. The lying breath requires nothing. The balance check requires you to stand on one foot. The belly breathing requires you to breathe. The joint circles require normal range of motion, which you already have even if it's limited. And the floor contact can be modified with support. You don't need to be a yogi. You just need to be willing to try. Injury risk. These moves are low impact and controlled. You're not jumping, not lifting weights, not doing anything fast or jarring. The biggest risk is doing nothing, which guarantees decline. But if you're worried, start next to furniture. Do the balance check next to your bed. Do the floor contact next to a chair. And if you have specific conditions like severe osteoporosis, joint replacements, or recent surgery, talk to your doctor first. But for most people over 60, these moves are safer than walking downstairs, and you do that every day without thinking about it. Here's the other thing. You don't need to believe this will work. You just need to do it for 2 weeks and see what happens. That's the deal. 2 weeks. Commit to 5 minutes every morning for 14 days. Track how you feel. Do you feel steadier? Less stiff? More energized in the morning? If after 2 weeks you feel exactly the same, then stop. But I'd bet money that you won't feel the same, because your body responds to input. And these 5 moves are high-quality input delivered at the right time in the right sequence. Now, let's talk about what this looks like in the long term. Because the goal isn't just to do 5 minutes of movement every morning. The goal is to stay independent, functional, and clear-minded as long as you're alive. And these 5 moves are the foundation. They're the minimum effective dose. Once they become automatic, once you've been doing them for a few months and they're locked in, you can add more if you want. Maybe you add a short walk after breakfast. Maybe you add some light strength work with bands or soup cans. Maybe you start gardening again or playing with grandkids on the floor. The 5 moves don't replace an active life. They enable it. They keep your systems tuned so that when you want to do more, your body can handle it. And here's the deeper principle. These moves are about agency. They're about taking control of the one thing you absolutely can control, which is how you move your body every single day. You can't control your genes. You can't control what happened to your joints in your 30s and 40s. You can't control the healthcare system or drug prices or what your doctor does or doesn't tell you. But you can control whether you do 5 minutes of intentional movement every morning. And that agency, that daily choice, is what separates people who age well from people who decline fast. Japanese doctors in their 80s know this. They've seen thousands of patients. They know what works and what doesn't. And the ones who are still working, still moving, still independent, they all do some version of these practices. Not because they read about it in a journal. Because they lived it. They practiced it. And it kept them functional. And now you have the same information. You have the same 5 moves. The only question is whether you'll use them. Let's talk about the identity shift that happens when you do this consistently. Because after a few months, something changes. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who's declining. You start thinking of yourself as someone who's maintaining. And that shift in identity changes how you make decisions. You take the stairs because you know you can. You walk on the grass instead of only on pavement because your balance is solid. You bend down to pick something up instead of leaving it because your joints are fluid and your floor contact practice means you're not afraid of getting down and up. You stop avoiding challenges. You start navigating them, and that's the real longevity benefit. Not just living longer, living with capability. Here's the last thing I want you to understand. These 5 moves are not a cure. They're not going to reverse arthritis or regrow cartilage or undo decades of sedentary living in 1 month. What they will do is stop the decline. They will stabilize your systems. They will give you a platform to build from. And in many cases, they will improve function enough that the things you thought were permanent limitations turn out to be reversible. Stiffness that you thought was arthritis turns out to be lack of joint circulation. Unsteadiness that you thought was inner ear damage turns out to be weak proprioception. Fatigue that you thought was aging turns out to be shallow breathing and poor diaphragm function. You won't know what's reversible until you try. And the only way to try is to do the work. So, here's your action plan. Tonight before bed, set your alarm 5 minutes earlier than usual. Put this plan somewhere you'll see it. On your nightstand, on your bathroom mirror, wherever. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, stay in bed. Do 3 slow breaths, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Then sit up slowly, pause, and stand. Do your balance check, 30 seconds per foot. Then your belly breathing, 10 breaths with your hands on your belly. Then your joint circles, shoulders, hips, knees. Then, if you feel ready, try the floor contact in whatever modified way you can manage. If not, skip it for now and add it in a week. Do this sequence every single morning for 2 weeks. Don't judge it. Don't overthink it. Just do it and notice what changes. And here's the thing about consistency. The hardest day is day 8, not day 1. Day 1, you're motivated. Day 8 is when it feels boring. That's when you'll be tempted to skip it. Don't. Day 8 is when the habit is forming. Push through day 8, and by day 14 it'll feel automatic. And once it's automatic, you've won. Because automatic behaviors don't require willpower. They just happen. And that's when the real benefits start to compound. Now, let's zoom out and talk about what all of this means in the bigger picture of aging, because we're told a lot of things about getting older. We're told it's about managing decline, about accepting limitations, about lowering expectations, and some of that is true. You're not going to run a marathon at 75 if you didn't run one at 50. But the narrative that aging is just slow collapse is wrong. Aging is adaptation. Your body adapts to what you ask of it. If you ask it to sit and take pills, it adapts to that. If you ask it to move, balance, breathe, and challenge itself every day, it adapts to that too, and the Japanese doctors who are still working in their 80s, they're proof that the adaptation can go in your favor. They're not genetic freaks. They're not on secret supplements. They're doing these 5 moves, or something very much like them, every single day, and their bodies have adapted to remain functional. Here's what most people get wrong about longevity. They think it's about adding years to your life. And sure, that's part of it. But the real goal is adding life to your years. What good is living to 90 if you can't walk without a walker, can't think clearly, can't enjoy a meal or play with a great-grandchild? The Japanese concept of longevity isn't about clinging to life as long as possible. It's about remaining capable as long as you're alive. And these 5 moves are designed for that. They're designed to keep you independent, mobile, clear, and engaged. They're designed to shrink the window of decline at the end of life as much as possible. There's a term for this. It's called compression of morbidity. Instead of spending the last 10 or 15 years of your life sick and dependent, you compress that window down to the last year or the last few months. You stay functional right up until near the end, and then you decline quickly. That's the pattern you see in the healthiest older populations in the world. They're active into their 80s, even their 90s. And then they get sick and pass relatively quickly. They don't spend a decade in a nursing home. They don't lose their minds before their bodies give out. They stay whole. And the way you compress that window of morbidity is by doing exactly what we've been talking about. You maintain your systems. You practice balance. You keep your joints fluid. You challenge your body to do the things that prove independence. Now, let's talk about the social side of this because it matters more than you might think. When you start doing these 5 moves every morning, you're going to feel different. And people around you are going to notice. Your spouse or your friends are going to ask what you're doing. And when you tell them, some of them are going to think it's too simple to work. They're going to expect a complicated program or a new medication. And when you say it's 5 minutes of breathing, balancing, and moving, they might dismiss it. Don't let that stop you. The people who dismiss simple practices are usually the same people who are declining fast and looking for a magic pill. You're not looking for magic. You're building a practice. And practices work when pills don't. But here's the other side. Some people are going to want to join you. Your partner might start doing the balance check with you in the morning. A friend might ask you to teach them the joint circles. And when that happens, let them in. Because doing this with someone else makes it easier to stay consistent. You have built-in accountability. And there's something powerful about 2 people in their 70s standing in a bedroom doing slow shoulder circles together. It's not flashy, but it's real. And it works. Let's also talk about what happens when you travel or your routine gets disrupted. Because life happens. You're going to have mornings when you wake up late, or you're staying at a hotel, or you're visiting family and everything feels off. On those mornings, do the shortened version. Just do the lying breath and the balance check. 2 minutes? That's the minimum. It keeps the habit alive even when you can't do the full sequence. And once you're back home, once your routine is normal again, you pick up the full 5 moves. The key is never letting the habit go completely dark. Even a shortened version keeps the neural pathway active. And here's a secret. Once you've been doing this for a few months, your body will start to crave it. Right now, if you're not doing it, your body doesn't know what it's missing. But after 2 or 3 months of waking up with controlled breathing, balanced standing, belly breathing, joint circles, and floor contact, your body will expect it. And on mornings when you skip it, you'll feel off. You'll feel stiffer, less steady, less clear. That's not a bad thing. That's your body telling you it needs the input. And once your body is asking for it, the habit is locked in for life. Now, let's address one more thing that comes up a lot. People ask me if these 5 moves are enough. Can you really stay functional and independent with just 5 minutes a day? And the answer is, it depends on where you're starting. If you're 65 and you're already fairly active, walking regularly, doing some kind of strength work, then these 5 moves are a supplement. They're the daily tune-up that keeps your systems sharp. But if you're 75 and you've been sedentary for years, these 5 moves are a foundation. They're the starting point. They'll stabilize you, improve your baseline function, and give you the confidence to add more activity. So the answer is, 5 minutes is enough to stop decline and maintain function. But it's not enough to build significant strength or endurance if you've lost a lot. For that, you'd need to add more over time. But you start here. You lock this in first. And then you build. Let me give you a framework for how to think about adding more once the 5 moves are locked in. Let's say you've been doing the 5 moves every morning for 3 months. They're automatic now. You feel steadier, less stiff, more energized. At that point, you can add a daily walk. Just 10 or 15 minutes after breakfast. Nothing intense. Just a walk around the block or through your neighborhood. That adds cardiovascular input and leg strength without much extra time. Then, after another month or 2, you could add some simple resistance work. Not weights, just body weight. Maybe you do 10 slow squats holding onto a counter, or 10 wall push-ups, or you hold a plank position for 20 seconds. You do that 2 or 3 times a week. And now you've got a full program. 5 minutes of the morning sequence every day. A short walk most days, and some light resistance work a few times a week. That combination will keep you functional and independent for as long as your genetics and luck allow. But here's the critical part. You don't start with all of that. You start with the 5 moves. You lock those in, and then you add. Because if you try to do everything at once, you'll get overwhelmed, and you'll quit. But if you build one habit at a time, each one becomes automatic before you add the next. And that's how you create a sustainable practice that lasts for years. Now let's come back to the Japanese doctors because there's one more thing they do that we haven't talked about. They practice what's called mindful adjustment. Every few months, they check in with their practice. They ask themselves, is this still working? Is my balance getting better or staying the same? Are my joints feeling more fluid or about the same? Am I able to get down and up from the floor more easily, or is it still hard? And based on those answers, they adjust. Maybe they add an extra balance challenge. Maybe they increase the depth of their squats when they practice floor contact. Maybe they add a few more joint circles. They don't just do the same thing forever on autopilot. They pay attention and adjust. You should do the same. Every 3 months, check in. Are you still getting benefits from these 5 moves? Are they still challenging you, or have they become so easy that they're not doing much? If they're too easy, add a progression. For the balance check, try closing your eyes for 10 seconds. For the belly breathing, try adding a longer exhale. For the joint circles, try increasing the range of motion slightly. For the floor contact, try doing it without any hand support. Keep the practice alive by keeping it slightly challenging. Not so hard that it's stressful, but not so easy that it's just going through the motions. And here's the thing about progression. It doesn't have to be big. You don't need to go from balancing for 30 seconds to balancing for 5 minutes. You just need to add a small challenge every few months. That small challenge keeps your nervous system engaged. It keeps your body adapting. And adaptation is the whole point. Let's talk about what happens in year 2 and beyond. Because if you stick with this, if you do these 5 moves every morning for a year, you're going to be in a completely different place than you are now. Your balance will be solid. Your joints will feel fluid. Your digestion will be regular. Your morning energy will be high. And you'll have proven to yourself that you can build and maintain a daily practice. At that point, the 5 moves are just part of who you are. You don't think about them. You don't debate whether to do them. You just do them, the same way you brush your teeth, and in year 2, you start to see the long-term benefits. Things that used to worry you don't worry you anymore. You're not afraid of stairs. You're not afraid of uneven ground. You're not afraid of getting down on the floor. You move through the world with confidence, and that confidence changes everything. You say yes to things you would have said no to before. You go on that trip. You visit that grandchild. You take that hike. Because you know your body can handle it. And the more you say yes, the more you live. And that's the whole point of longevity. Not just breathing for more years, living for more years. Now, let's talk about the hard truth. Some of you reading this are going to do it. You're going to start tomorrow. You're going to build the habit. And you're going to see results. But most of you won't. Most of you are going to read this, think it sounds good, and then never actually try it. Or you'll try it for 3 days, skip a day, and never get back to it. And that's fine. I can't force you. But I want you to understand what you're choosing. If you don't do this, if you don't take 5 minutes every morning to maintain your systems, you're choosing decline. You're choosing stiffness, imbalance, low energy, and eventual dependence. Not because you're unlucky, because you didn't do the work. And the work is so small. 5 minutes. That's less time than you spend scrolling on your phone before you get out of bed. So, here's the real question. Do you want to stay independent? Do you want to keep moving, thinking, and functioning as long as possible? If the answer is yes, then you know what to do. You start tomorrow morning. You do the 3 lying breaths. You do the balance check. You do the belly breathing. You do the joint circles. And you try the floor contact in whatever way you can. You do that every day for 2 weeks. And then you check in with yourself. And I promise you, if you actually do it, you'll feel different. And once you feel different, you'll keep going. But if the answer is no, If you'd rather take your chances and hope for the best, then don't do it. Just understand that hope is not a strategy. Your body doesn't care about your intentions. It only responds to your actions. And if your actions are to stay in bed an extra 5 minutes and skip the work, then your body will adapt to that. It'll get weaker, stiffer, and less capable. That's not a moral judgment. That's biology. Now, let's wrap this up with the bigger picture. These 5 moves are based on principles that Japanese doctors have practiced for generations. They're not trendy. They're not new. They're simple, effective, and proven by time. And the reason they work is because they address the root causes of age-related decline. Not the symptoms, the causes. Poor balance isn't a disease. It's weak proprioception that wasn't practiced. Joint stiffness isn't always arthritis. It's often just lack of movement through full range. Low morning energy isn't always a thyroid problem. It's often shallow breathing and a weak diaphragm. And fear of the floor isn't a personality trait. It's lack of practice. When you do these 5 moves every day, you're addressing those root causes. You're training your proprioception. You're lubricating your joints. You're strengthening your diaphragm. You're practicing the floor contact that proves independence. And over time, the symptoms fade. Not because you treated them, because you removed the cause. This is a completely different model than what most people are taught about aging. Most people think aging is about managing symptoms. You get stiff, you take a pill. You get unsteady, you use a cane. You get tired, you drink more coffee. But managing symptoms doesn't stop decline. It just makes decline more comfortable. These 5 moves stop decline. They reverse some of it. And they give you back agency over your own body. And here's the last thing I want to say before we finish. You are not too old to start. I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80, or 90. I don't care if you haven't exercised in decades. I don't care if you think you're too stiff, too weak, too unsteady. You can start. You can do a modified version of every single one of these moves. And your body will respond. Maybe not as fast as someone younger. Maybe not as dramatically. But it will respond. Because your nervous system still works. Your joints still produce fluid. Your muscles still contract. The machinery is still there. It's just been sitting idle. And the moment you start using it again, it wakes up. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you have a choice. You can roll out of bed the way you always do, feel stiff and unsteady, and go about your day accepting that this is just how it is now. Or you can pause. You can take 3 deep breaths while lying flat. You can stand slowly and check your balance for 30 seconds per foot. You can place your hands on your belly and breathe deeply for 60 seconds. You can circle your shoulders, hips, and knees slowly and intentionally. And you can lower yourself toward the floor and come back up, using support if you need to. You can take 5 minutes and invest in your future. 5 minutes, that might be the difference between independence and dependence in your 80s. 5 minutes, that might be the difference between living your final years with dignity and capability, or living them afraid and limited. That's the choice. And it's yours to make. Not your doctor's, not your family's, yours. And you make it new every single morning. So make it well, make it with intention, and make it starting tomorrow. Which of these 5 moves are you most curious to try first? And what's one thing about your morning routine right now that you'd be willing to change to make room for it?